At home with a lifetime of stories and songs, people we've met and the places we've gone. Along the way found where and how we belong. At home with a lifetime of stories and songs. Welcome to More Songs and Stories from Home, podcasts that give voice to songs with stories and stories with songs written and being written over the course of a lifetime, often illuminating the journey we all make, together and alone, finding our way home. 1968, Part 1. Albert Einstein spoke eloquently about imagination, calling it the language of the soul, proclaiming it more important than knowledge, saying, if we pay attention to it, we will discover all we need to be fulfilled. When the morning ride made our recording in the big room in December of 1967, much of life remained unimaginable to me. Things like a career in music or a life outside the one I'd lived in Spokane or was currently living as a college student. And then in June of 1968, I was both touched and touched by what had previously been unimaginable. The morning ride was chosen to represent the University of Washington in a nationwide talent contest called Your All-American College Show. We flew down to LA the afternoon of June 6th. Robert Kennedy had died earlier that day. We were staying near the Ambassador Hotel where he'd been shot. The four of us went there, easily accessing the kitchen area where he'd fallen. We knelt down and touched the floor near where he lay. The floor was a kind of cold I had never felt before. Though to this day I can close my eyes and imagine I'm feeling it still. 2 days later, the four of us were on stage, bathed in the warm glow of TV lights and applause. Someone handed me a large trophy that proclaimed us first place winners. What had previously been unimaginable was suddenly at that moment in the palm of my hands. Love is but the song we sing,
fade away we die.
You can make the mountains ring,
Or make the angels cry.
though the dove is on the wing, you need not know why. Hey people now, smile on your brothers, let me see you get together. Try to love one another right now. So that's the first verse and the refrain of a song called Let's Get Together, a song popularized by the Youngbloods and made sort of an anthem of the time. And that recording you heard was one we made, The Morning Ride, the group I sang with in college. We made in the end of 1967, just before the dawn of 1968. We watched boys die in Vietnam in living rooms at night. We lost the Tet Offensive when we heard it from Cronkite. McCarthy in New Hampshire led a children's peace crusade. We believed times were changing back in 1968. Well, times were changing in 1968. for us as a country, for me as an individual. In the winter of 1968, I was still on the path, living the life that I'd known. Grew up in a town of Spokane, not so big, not so. I was going to be when I went to the University of Washington. I was studying zoology. I was going to be a doctor, like my dad. Kind of the kid dreams, I suppose. And played some football there, and found a good kind of a good life that seemed to fit into the life that I'd been living up till then, and kept going in the winter of 1968, taking those science classes, and then I took the MCAT test, the medical application test, and got some applications. Did about a dozen medical schools around the country, learning the names and places of these different things, and all the time wondering. There's a lot of competition out there, and I didn't know it at the time, but this dyslexia had kind of made studying harder than. But again, it wasn't sure and didn't know how to dream anything else. And the guy, when we'd made that recording at the big room, the idea certainly wasn't as anything more than four guys having fun and enjoying it, singing with them. Wasn't any career plans, that's for sure. And then some talent scouts came, and they were looking for talent on college campuses. And they came to the University of Washington, and I told the guys about it, and we went across the freeway and on 45th, and we auditioned in this hotel room. And I'll be darned, a few weeks later, we heard the news that we'd been accepted, that we were going to be part of a national TV talent show. We were going to, like I say, be competing with all these other talented acts from different colleges, and that's pretty neat. Again, no idea that this was anything more than something to do in college, and then Dr. King was killed on April 4th. And life began to look a little different from the summer of love a few months earlier. And then getting ready for finals, I was studying for an econ test, last finals of the spring quarter. And one of the guys, Mike Dwyer, came in and told me Bobby Kennedy had been shot. Suddenly, 1968 felt a little more shaky, and but the day that Bobby Kennedy died, the morning ride flew down to Los Angeles. We stayed in a hotel that was a block and a half away from the Ambassador Hotel where Robert Kennedy had been shot a few nights earlier, and he'd actually died the morning of the day we arrived. And so when we got there, we made a point of going to the Ambassador Hotel, and we went into the kitchen area, and it was an old hotel, and it had the wooden paneling along the walls, and some of the panels had been removed where some of the bullets had ended up, and they were taken out. Those panels had been taken out, and there's this. It's a quiet place, empty place, and a very cold floor, where we'd seen pictures of Bobby Kennedy lying there. And by the time we'd arrived, he had died. And somebody that had grown up understanding the beauty of politics, or I guess that Jack Kennedy, his brother, had taught us, or had explained to us who were growing up, that politics is a noble profession, and my dad had loved politics and was active, and thus we talked a lot about it. And he was involved in Minnesota politics, and had great respect for Hubert Humphrey, and so it was something to realize after Dr. King had been shot, and here was Robert Kennedy, the first guy that I was going to vote for, had died, and so it was just something to stand quietly in that space for just a few minutes and get some sense of what was gone. And we had a practice rehearsal the next day, and day after that we filmed our show. There were 4 acts in our particular each half-hour show, and we were thinking this is kind of fun. We weren't that serious about it, and then at the end, Dennis James said, "And the winner is the morning ride." And suddenly we were standing on the stage with a big trophy and a check for $1,000, and I thought, well, this is kind of amazing. This is kind of I just don't know, but it was a pretty special moment. Thank you for watching or listening to more songs and stories from home. Come back next time for part 2 of 1968. Knowing you're welcome here at home with a lifetime of stories and songs.